Hi friends, welcome to the Dream Lifestyle Hub channel. Design, build, achieve your dreams. I'm starting the presentations in this channel with this topic. I'm particular about this topic because I believe that it is very essential for us to understand and follow it in our everyday life. The topic is the 5 elements of the universe. It was written in the Asian literature, especially in the Indian and the Chinese, that the universe is essentially made up of these 5 elements. Anything that is part of the universe is also composed of these 5 elements. This means that we are also composed of these 5 elements, or rather, these 5 elements exist inside us and outside us. Now presenting to you the 5 elements. These are the 5 elements. These are the 5 elements. It has been shown in a cyclic manner now because they operate in a cyclic pattern. We are very much used to the cyclic pattern. For example, the day and night, the seasons in a year, the months in a year. They keep occurring one after the other repeatedly, right? This pattern essentially means that one element supports and supplements another element. So when one element is affected, the other elements tend to support the lacking element and restore the balance. So they have formed their own support system. So here we see that the fire element supplements and supports the earth element. The earth element supports the air element. Air element exists in the Indian literature, whereas in the Chinese literature it is written as the metal. The metal element and the air element support the water element. Water element supports the space and the wood, and which in turn supports the fire element. Now, what are these elements? Each of these elements we will look in detail. But for now, these are the 5 elements, and this is how they operate. They function in a cyclic manner and they supplement each other. They help in the generative cycle. When one element is has slowed down, the other element tries to energize this element. Now we need to look at how these elements exist within us and outside us. Now, fire is a component that is very much evident as fire in the physical world. Now, how does it exist within our body? It is connected to the digestive system. The digestive system consists of acids, hydrochloric acid, all the various digestive juices are in acidic form, and hence they are connoted to the fire element because they help to digest the food that we eat. So that's how fire exists within our body. Now, what is the earth element? Earth element exists in the form of the skin, the flesh, the muscles, the bones. These are the earth elements that exist in our body. What is the air element? The air that we breathe. That is the air element that exists within our body. Air flows within our body. The Chinese literature describes the air element as a metal element. Considers it as a metal element because they consider that from earth the metal gets formed in the fluid form. Right? That's how they have connected it with the metal element. Now this in turn feeds the water element. When there's a flow of air, the water as well flows. The running water flows with the air. It needs a certain kind of pressure to flow. So air is the element that pushes the water to keep flowing. So what we can understand is when there's less air, the flow of the water is also affected. Right? So air is very much essential to ensure that the water keeps flowing, and that is a property of water. Now, water in turn is connected to the space element. Space is something that we can understand as we look into the space. There's nothing in the space, right? It's a vacuum. It's kind of a vacuum space. It's kind of a vacuum. As a result, we call it as a space. There's emptiness everywhere. So the emptiness aspect is also considered in this cycle. And how is that connected to our body? It has been shown that the emptiness also exists within our body. For example, in between the cells, in between the tissues, in between the fibers, there is slight space, right? They are not tightly packed, because if they are tightly packed, we will not be able to move our muscles in the way that we expect them to move. The cells will not be able to move around. So in order to give them the space to move around, they have the space, right? The space is a component that exists as part of the body. So the space is also an important element. So this space in turn controls supplements the fire element, right? It ensures that the fire element works within the body. Because of the flow that happens, the space is connected to the fire element. So these are the 5 elements that the universe is composed of and we are composed of. How they are all working around is what we will look at in the upcoming presentations. Now, just as there is the generative cycle, this is called the generative cycle, there is also a controlling cycle that works on these 5 elements. That is, one element controls another element. Let us now look at the control cycle of these elements. How one element controls the flow of another element. Now, fire element controls the flow of air. Air element in turn controls the flow of space. The space element in turn controls the flow of earth. The earth element controls the flow of water. The water element controls the flow of fire. This is called the control cycle. So when one element is lacking, the other elements surrounding it are supplementing it. At the same time, when one element is found in excess, another element tries to suppress it, tries to control it. For example, when there's too much of air within the body, the fire element tends to increase, so that the air element gets controlled. How does air work within the body? It helps in the movement of the body. We are able to move freely, right? Move the hands, move the head. So it is like swaying in the air. We call it as we sway in the air, right? So we are moving the body as we need. So when there's too much of air, we tend to move a lot. Erratic movement, right? Uncontrolled movement. For example, the hyperactive kids, they tend to keep moving, right? So it's because of too much of air within the body, right? As a result, they are unable to control their movement because the air is pushing them, pushing the body parts to move around. So as a result of which they keep moving around. So it's too much of air. So it also essentially means that there is less amount of fire in their body. So when the fire increases, for example, the passion, when they know what to do, once they are focused in life, right? They know what to do. They find their interest in life. The fire element increases because they are able to focus on something. So as a result, the energy, the fire represents the energy. So energy gets utilized in some format, right? In some form, it gets utilized. So as the fire element increases, the air element gets controlled. This is how the control cycle works. And similarly, when the air element is when the space element is in excess, when there's too much of space, vacuum that is created, an emptiness that is created in our mind, that's when depression comes over. That's when blockages happen. That's when there's no clarity of vision, clarity of thought. This all happens because of the space element, excess of space element. When it happens, the air element tends to take over and reduce the space element. Air tries to get into the vacuum space, because too much of vacuum is also not good for the health, because nothing can grow within the body. The cells cannot grow, the cells cannot move around within the body when there's too much of space. So to enable growth, air takes over. At least air needs to be get filled. If water gets filled, it's going to create accumulation of water, which is not relevant. So at least what air could be possibly filled in those spaces, right? So as a result, air takes over to fill the vacuum in the space. Air takes over to reduce too much of space in the body. Now, when there's too much of earth element, what happens when there's what does it mean when there's too much of earth element? It means that your desire for materialistic things has increased. You really want pleasure in life. You want too much of joy in life. You want to enjoy in life. You want to only keep enjoying. You want too much of everything in the physical world, too much of it. So that essentially means that there is an increase in the earth element. It doesn't mean that your skin is growing. Obesity is a kind of signal that there's too much of earth element, because you tend to occupy the worldly space, right? Your chair size increases, your clothes size increases, so which essentially means that the worldly components, worldly materials need to be increased in your life. You're trying to, or you tend to you tend to attract too much of worldly materials into your life. So it's because of the earth element has increased. So how is that suppressed? When with the space element. So when there's a vacuumness in the body, in the mind, the earth element gets controlled. Your desires, your addictions get controlled. So in this case, the space is very much essential. Too much of space will create emptiness, blankness, and depression. Whereas too much of earth element will create too much of addiction. So in that scenario, space is very much essential to control your desires, your addictions, your passion, right? Now, when there's too much of water in the body, the water element increases in the body. It could be because of your drinking too much of water, or the water is not being utilized well in the body. The water element may tend to increase in the body. In that scenario, the earth element takes over to use the body, to utilize the body. That's when your body that's that's when parts of the body also tend to grow. For example, the hair. When there's too much of hair, it means the earth element is trying to utilize the water element in your body. Now, when there's a hair loss, it essentially means that the water in the body is not sufficient to supplement the earth element. Right? It's just like plants drying out without water. So as a result, they would not grow. Similarly, the hair also will not be able to grow when there is lack of water. So this is how the elements control each other and supplement each other when there's a lack or when there's an excess. So it is very much essential for us to understand these 5 elements and accept them into our life. Realize that they are very much part of our life, and they have a and they very much have a significant role. They very much have a significant role in the way we behave in life and the way we exist in life. If we are facing disorders in life, diseases in life, disturbances in life, we have to understand that something is wrong with the 5 elements. So it's very much essential for us to take care of these 5 elements at a fundamental level. Be it medication or any other form, they will only enhance the elemental system. But fundamentally, it's the elemental system that governs our body and the universe.